It was a calm Tuesday morning, the kind where the air felt light and the sun peeked through the windows like a quiet visitor. The cafe was already alive with the sounds of coffee machines, the rustling of paper cups, and the chatter of customers who were in a rush to get to work. Among the crowd, an older man slowly walked in. He wore plain jeans, a simple shirt, and a soft brown jacket. To anyone looking, he seemed like an ordinary customer. But in truth, he was the owner of the entire company, visiting the store without anyone knowing who he really was. He liked to see the real picture, how people worked, how they were treated, and what life felt like for them behind the counter. As he stepped in line, his eyes landed on the young black woman standing at the cash register. She had both her arms covered in stiff white braces. It looked painful just to lift anything. And yet she was there, smiling at everyone as if nothing in the world could break her spirit. Her name tag read Maya. Her smile was soft but steady, like someone who had learned how to stay strong even when the world wasn't kind. The undercover boss noticed how carefully she moved. She tapped the register buttons with the sides of her hands and elbows, shifted cups with the help of her wrists, and even used her shoulder to hold the counter steady when she needed balance. It wasn't graceful, but it was full of quiet strength. She apologized to every customer if their order took a little longer, and most of the time people just nodded, but not everyone. Some rolled their eyes, others sighed loudly, but she didn't react. She just kept smiling. When it was his turn, she greeted him with the same bright smile she gave everyone else. Her voice was warm and calm. She asked for his order, carefully tapped it into the register, then slid the cup toward the barista with slow but steady hands. He watched the way she moved. It wasn't the way a person moved when they were tired of life. It was the way a person moved when they refused to give up. He took his coffee and stepped aside, but he didn't leave the cafe. Something about Maya stayed in his mind. Maybe it was the way she smiled even when her arms looked like they were hurting. Maybe it was the way she worked twice as hard as everyone else without a single complaint. He found a corner table where he could quietly watch. He didn't want her to know he was the boss. He just wanted to understand her story. The next wave of customers came in. The line stretched out the door and the noise grew louder. He saw Maya take deep breaths as she worked faster. It was clear she was struggling, but she never let it show on her face. She used her body like a puzzle, adjusting every movement to make things work. She tapped the card machine with her elbow, handed cups using her forearm, and pressed the screen with careful precision. A young man in line grew impatient. He muttered something under his breath and tapped his foot, but Maya didn't flinch. She looked at him kindly, apologized for the wait, and kept going. The undercover boss noticed something else. None of the other employees rushed to help her. She was carrying her weight alone. Then it happened. A carton of milk slipped from the counter. For a second, everything slowed down. It hit the floor and the white liquid spread in every direction. Some customers stared, others frowned, but Maya didn't panic. She bent down slowly, picked up a cloth with her elbow, and began wiping the floor with quiet focus. She whispered to herself, "It's okay." Her voice was steady, not shaky. She cleaned it up alone, threw the carton away, and got back to work as if nothing had happened. The boss felt something twist in his chest. He had visited many stores before, but this moment was different. Most people would have cried or walked away if they had to do that kind of work with injured arms. But Maya stood there, still smiling, still greeting people, still working as if the world was watching her strength. He looked at the other customers. Some were moved. A few even softened their expressions after watching how she handled the accident. One woman in line even said gently, "Take your time, sweetheart." Maya thanked her with that same soft smile. It wasn't fake. It was warm and real, like someone who was used to being kind even when life wasn't easy. The undercover boss took another sip of his coffee, but his thoughts were far away. He wasn't thinking about the company or sales anymore. He was thinking about her. Who was this woman? Why was she working with both arms injured? Why was she not at home recovering? As the hours passed, Maya kept moving. She greeted hundreds of people, tapped hundreds of buttons, lifted dozens of cups, all with broken arms. She never once complained, never asked for help, and never let the pain take away her smile. He could see she wasn't just working a job. She was fighting to stay standing. And the way she did it, quiet, calm, strong, made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. a mix of sadness, respect, and the sudden urge to know more. Before leaving, he turned one last time. Maya was still at the counter, helping a mother with a stroller, holding the door open with her elbow while balancing a cup with her wrist. Her smile hadn't faded once. The undercover boss walked out into the cool air, holding his coffee, feeling the weight of what he'd just seen. He had visited hundreds of stores over the years. He had seen great workers, lazy workers, kind workers, and rude ones. But he had never seen someone like Maya, a woman with broken arms, a tired body, and a smile that refused to give up. He didn't know her full story yet, but something told him that what he would discover later would change everything. The next morning, the undercover boss woke up earlier than usual. His mind couldn't stop replaying the image of Maya, standing behind the counter with both arms wrapped in braces, working like someone who refused to be defeated. He felt something heavy in his chest. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was a mix of concern, respect, and a quiet kind of sadness. He had built this company with the dream that no one would ever have to suffer in silence. And yet there she was, right in one of his own stores, hurting and pushing herself without a word. He decided to go back to the cafe again, this time not as the man in charge but as the quiet customer in the corner. He walked through the doors just as the morning rush was beginning. The line was already forming. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. And there she was, Maya. Same uniform, same braces on her arms, same soft smile. She moved slowly but with care, balancing every action like a delicate dance. She greeted each customer as if it was her first one of the day. "Good morning," she said softly to a young woman in a suit. "How's your day going?" she asked an older man in line. Even when people didn't answer kindly, she kept her voice warm. The undercover boss sat near the window watching carefully. He noticed little details he had missed the day before. How she bit the inside of her lip when lifting something heavy. How she leaned against the counter for just a second to catch her breath when no one was looking. How her smile flickered just for a moment before she forced it back into place. It wasn't fake kindness. It was strength. A kind of strength that grows quietly in people who have learned to survive hard days. The rush grew louder. Cups clattered, machines hissed, and impatient customers shifted in line. A teenager behind the counter made a mistake on an order. Maya calmly fixed it without even using her hands properly. She gave the teen a small encouraging nod. The boy relaxed. She made the people around her better even when she herself was in pain. A few customers were kind, but some weren't. One man tapped his watch and sighed loudly as if every second was being stolen from him. Another woman muttered that the service was too slow. Maya apologized gently to them all. Not once did she let frustration or anger show on her face. But the undercover boss could see something most customers couldn't. He saw the effort behind every word. Then came a moment that made his heart sink even deeper. A big delivery order arrived. 2 boxes filled with heavy cartons of milk and other supplies were dropped near the counter. Usually 2 staff members carried those to the back. But today only Maya was standing there. The other worker had stepped away to clean the back tables. She looked at the boxes for a moment. Just a moment. And in that brief pause, the boss saw the truth. She was hurting. But she still bent down, used her forearm and shoulder, and dragged the box inch by inch to the storage room. It wasn't fast. It wasn't easy. But she did it anyway. The undercover boss felt something tighten in his throat. He had seen many employees work hard before, but this was different. This was not just someone doing a job. This was someone fighting for her life. When the rush slowed a little, Maya took a tiny break at the corner of the counter. She didn't sit. She just leaned on her side. The undercover boss walked quietly to the register. A young man, one of her coworkers, was now at the counter. The boss pretended to order another drink, but in truth he wanted to ask questions. "Hey," he said softly to the young man. "That girl at the register yesterday, she's incredible. What happened to her arms?" The coworker looked around before speaking. His voice dropped a little. "She was in a bad car accident about a month ago. She broke both her arms. The doctors told her to rest, but..." He sighed softly. "She lives alone. Her insurance doesn't cover much. If she stops working, she won't be able to pay her rent or for her therapy. She comes here every day even when it hurts. She says it's better than staying at home worrying." The undercover boss didn't say a word. He just stared at Maya from across the cafe. She was helping an older woman carry a tray to a table, smiling and nodding even as her braces made every movement difficult. He realized that behind that calm smile was a woman carrying a quiet weight no one else could see. The coworker continued, almost in a whisper. She doesn't want anyone to feel sorry for her. She says pain won't decide her future. She will. Those words hit him hard. Pain won't decide her future. She will. He walked back to his table and sat down slowly. The cup of coffee grew cold in his hands, but he didn't notice. His mind was somewhere else entirely. He had started this undercover visit like any other. Just another quiet check on how things were running. But this time it wasn't about sales numbers or customer service ratings. It was about a young woman who was fighting a battle he hadn't even known existed. He thought about how many people walked in and out of that cafe every day, not realizing they were being served by someone who woke up each morning, wrapped her broken arms and went to work with a smile. How many people sighed or grew impatient, never knowing how much strength it took for her to hand them a simple cup of coffee. As he watched her finish her shift, he noticed something else. When everyone started cleaning up, Maya didn't leave first. She stayed to wipe the counters with the side of her arm. She stayed to make sure the floor was clean. She stayed to help the younger coworker finish his closing tasks. And when she finally clocked out, she smiled and told everyone, "See you tomorrow." She walked out of the cafe slowly, the night air brushing against her tired face. Her steps were careful but steady. She didn't know that someone was watching from the corner table, feeling more than just surprise. He felt respect. Deep, quiet respect. That night he couldn't sleep. He thought about how much courage it must take to live like that. To keep smiling, to keep moving, to keep showing up. He made a decision. He wasn't going to just watch her anymore. Tomorrow he would return, not as a silent stranger but as himself. He would step forward, not just as the boss of a company, but as someone who had seen the strength behind a single smile and decided to do something about it. He didn't know exactly what that would look like yet, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let her fight alone anymore. The next day came with a different kind of energy. The undercover boss woke up before sunrise, staring at the ceiling with a clear decision in his heart. He had spent 2 days watching Maya work through pain with quiet strength. He had seen her drag heavy boxes with broken arms, smile at impatient customers, and whisper to herself to stay strong. This was no ordinary employee. This was someone with a story worth standing for. And today he was no longer going to hide behind the mask of a customer. Today he would walk through those doors as who he truly was. He put on his usual suit, the one that always made people notice him. The dark fabric was smooth, the tie perfectly straight. As he looked at himself in the mirror, he thought about the first time he wore it years ago when this company was just a dream. Back then, his dream had been to build a place where workers felt safe and supported. Over the years, numbers, meetings, and business took most of his attention. But Maya reminded him of something he had forgotten. A company is nothing without its people. When he walked into the cafe, everyone froze for a second. The manager's eyes widened. The barista almost dropped a cup, and the young coworker whispered something under his breath. They all knew who he was now. The real boss was standing in the middle of the store. But Maya didn't notice him at first. She was at the register, carefully helping an older woman count change. He stepped forward slowly, not wanting to scare her. When she finally looked up and saw him in his formal suit, she blinked in surprise. Her smile faltered just for a moment, replaced by confusion. She looked around at her coworkers as if asking silently, "Why is he here?" He gave her a gentle nod and said, "Maya, can I talk to you in the back for a moment?" Her shoulders stiffened. For the first time in 3 days, the smile on her face slipped away. She followed him to the back office, walking carefully, her arms still locked in braces. When the door closed behind them, she took a small breath. Her voice was soft. "Did I do something wrong?" He shook his head slowly. "No, Maya, you didn't do anything wrong. You've done everything right." She looked even more confused. He smiled kindly and then said something she didn't expect. "I wasn't just another customer these past 2 days. I've been here watching because I'm the owner of this company." Maya's eyes widened. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For a second, she looked frozen, unsure whether to be afraid, embarrassed, or relieved. She finally whispered, "You're the boss?" "Yes," he said softly. "And I've been watching how strong you are. I saw how you worked through pain. I saw how you smiled at people even when they didn't treat you kindly. I saw how you carried those heavy boxes yesterday when you shouldn't have had to. And I can't just walk away from that. Not this time." She blinked, tears slowly forming in her eyes though she tried to hold them back. She lowered her head a little, embarrassed. I just need to work, she whispered. I can't lose this job. I'll be okay. I don't want trouble. He stepped a little closer, his voice calm and steady. Maya, this isn't trouble. This is about making sure you're not carrying the weight of the world alone. You've given so much to this place, and now it's time this company gives something back to you. She looked up at him, her eyes soft and unsure, like she didn't quite believe what she was hearing. He reached into the folder he had brought with him. Inside were several papers and an envelope. He laid them gently on the desk between them. First, he said, you're getting full paid medical leave. You're not going to work another day until your arms heal. You're going to rest. That's not a request, it's what you deserve. She gasped softly. She had never expected that. Second, he continued, your therapy and medical costs are going to be fully covered by the company. You don't have to worry about choosing between healing and paying bills anymore. That's on us now. Her hand covered her mouth. A single tear slid down her cheek. And third, he said gently, this is a check to help with your rent while you recover. It's not charity, Maya, it's respect. It's our way of saying we see you. We see your strength. For a long moment, the room was silent except for her soft, shaky breathing. Then the tears came, quiet, warm tears that she didn't bother to hide anymore. She whispered, no one's ever done something like this for me before. He gave a small smile. You've been taking care of everyone else. It's time someone took care of you. Maya slowly sank into the chair behind her. The weight she had been carrying for weeks, the fear of losing her job, the pain of working through injury, the quiet loneliness, seemed to fall off her shoulders piece by piece. She wiped her cheeks, but the tears kept coming. They talked for a while. She told him about the car accident, about living alone, about how she worried every night about bills and recovery. He listened, not as a CEO, but as a man who cared. He didn't interrupt. He just let her speak. When she finished, he simply said, you are stronger than you realize, Maya, and this company is lucky to have you. When she walked out of the office, everyone was waiting. She didn't know that he had gathered the team while she was inside. He stood behind her and announced to the staff that Maya would be on paid medical leave, and that she was being recognized for her dedication and courage. The cafe erupted into warm applause. A few people even wiped their eyes. Maya stood there, her cheeks wet, her heart full. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe without fear. She wasn't just a cashier with broken arms anymore. She was seen. She was valued. Weeks passed. Maya went through her therapy, slowly regaining the strength in her arms. She didn't have to choose between healing and surviving anymore. She sent little notes to the team now and then, thanking them for their kindness. But the biggest change happened inside her heart. The quiet weight she had carried for so long was gone. When she finally returned to work, the cafe had balloons at the door. Her co-workers greeted her with cheers and flowers. The undercover boss, now not undercover anymore, was there too, standing quietly at the back with a smile on his face. Maya walked behind the counter, lifted a cup with steady hands, and laughed softly. That day, something changed, not just for her, but for everyone who worked in that company. People started looking at each other differently, with more kindness and more respect. And for the boss, it was a reminder of something priceless. Behind every uniform is a human story. Behind every smile is a kind of strength the world often doesn't see.